the point of the calls on Fridays is about mindset. Mindset dictates our attitude, which sets our habits, which become who we are. So mindset is the basis of everything. The life of an entrepreneur, that is ours, differs from the life of an employee because we have to continually refresh our mindset, our thinking, and tweak our journeys to our ultimate success. We've been recommending certain number of books to read. Everybody should read as much as possible. And we've recommended, for example, The Miracle Morning, The 4 Disciplines of Execution, The Power of One More, Grit, Entrepreneurial You, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. So today we're going to discuss Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights. And basically the thesis is that eventually the lights will turn green eventually. So we may go through a yellow light and get a head start, take a little risk, or we may wait until after the red light to go safely through. Timing and decisions we make are up to us. So Matthew McConaughey is an author, an actor, a minister of culture. He's one of the influencers that is cultured and worthwhile listening to. So he's got the 7 takeaways from Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights. Dan?
Yes, the title of the book comes from when they get the approval to do a movie, let's say. So, they go through the writing process, they go through getting, the financing available to make the movie, and then ultimately it gets the green light, quote unquote, the green light. So, we have these green lights in our lives, and it's whether or not we choose to take the action to capitalize on those opportunities. So everything that's good that, financially or job driven in my life has happened because I've taken advantage of green lights. And to get to those green lights, sometimes, as Lawrence said, you have to have red lights, and there's going to be red lights, there's going to be yellow lights. But each one of these green lights in life that are going to be revealed to you have at least a green light asset in the future. They have a lesson. These red and yellow lights, they have a lesson in them that we are supposed to learn, right? So any hardship, any pause we take, any intervention, any interruption, they have green light assets that will be revealed to us in the future. So these red and yellow lights that we have in our lives will eventually turn green in the rearview mirror. So we may not be able to see that right away, but we need to keep forging forward to create those opportunities or capitalize on those opportunities that present themselves. They may present themselves as a red light, they may present themselves as a yellow light, but ultimately, if we do the correct things, they're going to turn into a green light, right? If we put all those things together to create success, those red and yellow lights can ultimately turn into a green light. Something good's going to happen. So it's all about what we're going to do with those green lights, with those yellow lights, with those red lights that happen in our lives. So Lawrence said, red lights or yellow lights may be an opportunity to give us some pause, and red lights may give us an opportunity to sit back and relax and reevaluate things and see, what do we want in life? How are we going to get there? And then eventually these red and these yellow lights are going to turn green, and it's up to us to capitalize on them. So we have that going on in the business right now, right? We have so many good things happening. We have, AI, we've got the Vera app, the Stella app, we have genetic testing. There's going to be microbiome testing coming down in the future. We're going to have a new device, new products. The future is now, and we need to start preparing. We're in that yellow light phase per se, right? Because we have the opportunity, and we can either seize the opportunity or not seize on that opportunity in the next 12 to 18 months. And it's those of us who are in that yellow light, who are working towards turning that yellow light green, are going to be the ones that win in the next 12 to 18 months. So it's about building out our network. It's about signing people up. It's about, getting people to try the Vera app. On our Tuesday night team call, we had Scott Bennett on the call, and he talked about some things that are happening from some meetings that he had. And, a couple of things that I found interesting were, if you have a scanner, your group volume is 58% higher than someone who doesn't have the scanner. I mean, that's a pretty staggering statistic, right? Because we actually have something that we can show people that the products that they're trying are working. And then the other statistic he said was that if you get somebody to sign up and do the skincare assessment on the Vera app, the average order that happens from that interaction is $350, right? And so if we're not utilizing Vera, if you don't have a scanner, those are definitely things that can propel your business. Those are green lights. Lawrence?
Yeah, in fact, you're right. We're in a yellow light in this instant in our minds, all of us. But there's a glaring green light that is what the company has to offer right now. There has been a lot of investment in time, in money, in technology to be able to produce what the future will be for a lot of people. So we can either wait for the light to turn green. First it'll turn red and then it'll turn green, or we can put pedal to the metal and go like hell right now, because all the ingredients for the recipe of success are there. The company has over the years established and looked at certain things. Like, for example, they produced a product for eyelashes and eyebrows. And that was because of the feedback they had and they saw from artificial intelligence, from seeing where everybody was what things people wanted. Who knew? And that's where they start coming up with products that we didn't even know about. So our own mind now, we've got to adjust our minds to be able to get into a very, very dynamic, positive accelerator mode to go forward. And in some of the books that we've been reading, it's also about what we call quantum physics, which is visualize our dreams, smell them, taste and see the reality you're creating. Write down your goals and dreams, unswerving belief. We've talked about all these things, but now's the time to actually get on the horse, get your spurs on, and get into overdrive, because all the ingredients are there. There's no excuse, none whatsoever, no excuse for not having total success with our future and what we're doing. No excuse. We've got every single ingredient for us. We've got the company that backs us up. We don't have to collect the money. We just have to portray the message and show everybody what the company has and our own capabilities, which come from passion. We've got to be passionate about it. We've got to be sure of what we're doing. And this is the whole point about, going through now with full steam. No excuses.
So I put in the chat for everybody. I think it's the end of this month. Matthew McConaughey is doing an event that you can sign up for. It's free, along with I think Dean Graziosi and some others. And it's called The Art of Living. So I put the link in there to the chat so everybody can take a look at it and join if you want to. I'm going to be participating, and I'm really excited about it. But there's seven takeaways in this book, and I recommend everybody reads this book, Green Lights. And the first one is, sometimes you need to create your own green lights. Sometimes you have to take charge and guide your own way. Sometimes green lights are going to fall in your lap, and sometimes you need to create them, but you also need to take responsibility for how you react to those green lights and whether or not you're going to do something with it. So he says in the book, I created a lot of green lights by taking responsibility today, which created freedom for me tomorrow. I made decisions today and sometimes even sacrifices that teed me up for more pleasure or more of what I wanted tomorrow. Right. So, I talk a lot about sacrifice. Everything good that's happened to me is because I've sacrificed something for something else, whether it's, wanting to go out and hang out with my friends this afternoon and go on a mountain bike ride versus taking care of something work related that I need to do to be successful in the future. You don't need to do that all the time, but if you want to be successful, you do need to make some of those sacrifices. And that's a big part of why I've been successful, and I'm sure a big part of why a lot of you have been successful. We have doctors on this call, right? And they sacrifice going to med school and residency and sometimes fellowships, and then the long hours and making sure that they're available to their patients at all times. That's a sacrifice. Less time with their families to be able to create the reputation that patients want, and the trust of patients that they want to see those physicians. So those are sacrifices, and we can choose what sacrifices we're willing to take for a better future tomorrow. So the key takeaway is, you may be in that yellow light phase or that red light phase, but if you keep doing the correct things day after day, if you're consistent, those green lights are going to start to appear, and it's up to you to do something with those green lights.
I always talk about, telling people, I don't want anybody to get to my age and say, I wish I coulda, shoulda, woulda. Could have done that, should have done that, would have done that. Well, those are regrets. And those regrets you don't need to have. Nobody should have regrets like that. And here we're at an opportunity where we can absolutely seize this amazing opportunity, where we've already got a lot of groundwork done for us, and seize the opportunity to go forward. So the second thing he's talking about is find your frequency. And your frequency is what we're talking about with visualizing and knowing what you want. So, when things are not going as planned, these are opportunities to redress our actions, tweak our plans. So it's a question of defining who you are and how you're going to fix it, what you want. So one of the things is lighten the weight of our journey, discarding all distractions and irrelevant distractions. Focus on what we want. Go full out right now. This is the opportunity to really, really be ultra enthusiastic and passionate about what we've got. Think about it. AI meets DNA. To be able to offer some healthcare solutions according to the DNA of the people, of the person. Who has that? Who has that? We have. It's an opportunity. Take the green light.
Yeah, one of the other things he goes on to say when he's talking about frequency is that defining who you're not is the key to finding out who you are. Yeah. Right. And a lot of times we spend a lot of times trying to define who we are, but sometimes that can be difficult. Right. So take the opposite approach. Define who you're not, and then who you are will reveal itself. So, he goes on to say that if you get rid of enough things that don't feed you, that aren't giving you residuals or teeing up green lights in your future, by sheer mathematics, you'll have more options in front of you that do feed your true self and feed the green lights in your future. So it's about getting rid of those negative things in your life, getting rid of those obstacles, getting rid of those distractions. We all have them. We can all choose which ones we allow to sculpt our future and which ones we don't allow to sculpt our future. We can let certain people into our lives who may be negative, or they may be a cancer, dragging us away from what we truly want, taking our time and energy from what we really truly want. And we want to limit those people that are in our lives, and we want to replace them with people who are nurturing who we are, what we want, who we want to be in the future, who we have defined that we are, and not who we aren't. Right. So, that's very important, and that feeds our frequency, because there's going to be times when you get in a rut, when your frequency's low. But when you have those people around you that are going to lift you up, like the people on this call, like the people on your team, and you're surrounded yourself with those people, it's going to be much easier to get out of those ruts and raise your frequency.
Yeah, and we've constantly got to tweak and redefine our actions. So we've got to continually streamlining who we are. It's life's a journey of lessons, and we've got to keep on tweaking that, learning new technologies. We're not the same people we were 5 years ago. None of us are. 5 years ago, we were different. Every single one of us. I don't care how young or old we are. We're all different because we're evolving, we're learning, we're growing. Some of us are growing slower and faster. Doesn't matter. We're all growing. So it's a question of consciousness. It's being conscious, making bold decisions when you know who you are. And as Dan just said, it's also extremely important to know who you're not and what you don't want. So we've got to do that. The fourth part he's talking about is turn cannot into can. And this is something that we've always talked about, is having absolute unswerving belief in ourselves. They'll make us bold and see challenges as opportunities to learn and progress. Embrace the mistakes as part of our PhD of life. Each mistake we make is a lesson, it's a course, it's a university course. They don't teach that in university. They don't teach that. Our mistakes are priceless if we learn from them. Those are our course to PhD of life, to really excelling, to know what we're doing by learning from our mistakes. So you can't into can. Well, if you can and you fail, so what? Get up and start again and learn from it. But never say, I can't do something. Everybody can. There's no such thing as cannot. Because if you say you cannot, you're probably right. If you say you can, you're probably right too. Those are all parts of these growing theories or practices that we talk about. So learn to be humble, ask for help and advice. No one is born an expert or a rock star. Ask for advice. You know, for guys, it's kind of difficult because we've got a big ego, or generally. But it's important to be able to ask for advice. Be humble about it.
Yeah, I mean, life is always has an element of risk to it, right? And if you say you can't, all you're doing is limiting your risk. If you say you can, you're increasing your risk, right? But this whole Facebook Live thing that Matthew McConaughey is doing, it's about the art of living. And the art of living is about what we do at the intersection of the yellow light, right? Do we move forward and increase our risk? Or do we move backward to a red light and decrease our risk? You know, a lot of times the risk may be, I'm not going to give this crisis credit. I'm going to speed up and blow by it. But also a lot of times it's the greater risk and the more valuable risk to see the yellow light and then go, this is a sign. I'm going to slow down and stop here. So, the yellow light can either be, to take action, or it can be to slow down and reevaluate your efforts, reevaluate where you are, reevaluate what you want. But when the right opportunity presents itself, the yellow light has an element of risk to it, because you have to decide whether you're going to take advantage of that green light and do something with it, right? And, we're, like Lawrence said, we're not always going to know the answers. That's why it's important to surround yourself with good people who believe in you, who believe in your mission, who want to help you be successful. There may be times when you're unable to do things yourself. You're going to have to seek help from others to help with the solution. So that doesn't mean you couldn't. It just means that you're smart enough to realize that you need help. or you're humble enough to realize that you need help. So don't limit yourself, be resourceful, look around, and when you need help, ask for it. Don't be afraid to ask for it. There's that old, joke about men not wanting to ask directions, right? I'm the first person to ask directions because I want to get where I'm going as quickly as possible. So I don't have a problem pulling over at a gas station and asking somebody for directions if I'm lost. Now, obviously that's not as big of an issue these days with GPS and all the map apps, but don't be afraid to ask those around you, those that you respect, those that believe in what you're doing, for help.
So you just said something that caught my attention. Smart enough to realize our limitation in a particular instant, as opposed to embarrassed. One said, oh, it's embarrassing to think that I don't know this or I don't know that, or, well, actually tweak that and say, no, I'm not embarrassed. I'm actually smart that I'm going to ask somebody. So it's a mindset again. Even those small things are mindsets. How we think about things, how we fine tune our own way of thinking. So the next thing that Matthew was talking about was stop thinking it's unbelievable. Well, our own mental limitations and programmed fears, we're taught to be afraid when we're kids. That causes limitations in our mind. And that therefore we believe that there are limitations of what is possible. But guess what? We've seen, I'll speak for myself, but on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, on all sorts of things that are being done that you think, oh my God, that's impossible. Because other people's limitations are not the same as ours. Our limitations are given to us, or we grow these limitations from when we're a kid, depending on our upbringing, our parents, our environment, our demographics. All of these other things cause us to have limited thinking, to be thinking in a small way. When we look around now and we say, my God, look, I can't believe that guy just did that. But he did it, so it's believable. So we've got to open our own minds to what is possible. Nothing is impossible.
Yeah. There's so much crazy stuff going on out there right now. People doing these ultra marathons and, things that people thought, probably 20 years ago that were impossible or unbelievable. People are doing it. There was many years ago, people thought that you couldn't break the 3-minute mile, and now it's been shattered. So nothing is unbelievable. Nothing is beyond our reach, right? And then the last thing that we want to kind of close with today is about delaying gratification. That's a form of sacrifice, or it can be a form of sacrifice. When you want something right away and you don't get it, you need to put yourself in a different frame of mind and say, sometimes these things take time. I need to delay my gratification. I'm not going to get it today. I may not get it tomorrow. I may not get it a month from now. But if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm going to get it eventually. So, it's better to be prepared and ready than to always get what we want right away. Preparation does not tee us up for delayed gratification. So we avoid that Sunday night stress sometimes about what we have to do Monday morning. It's about having a long view. It's about, preparing the night before for what you need to do the following day, so you know what you need to do. Delaying gratification by creating a strategy of how you're going to reach the level of success that you want and what you've defined as your success. It may take years. It could take, multiple, it could take 5 years. It depends on how you set your success, how you set your goals, and how you create that GPS of how you're going to get there. Are you going to set up small wins over the next year, or are you going to set one, ginormous goal that you want to hit in 12 months that's going to make you feel on a daily basis like you're not achieving anything because you haven't set little goals to reach that big goal, right? And that's what we talk about in the 4 disciplines. And, we talk about that with, gratifying, what we want in life how we're going to get there. You know, it's important to set smaller goals to reach bigger goals, right? And sometimes, and that's part of the delayed gratification process, right? We're gonna get some gratification from these smaller goals on the way to getting there, but the ultimate gratification is going to come in 12 months or 18 months when we meet our ultimate goal, whatever that is, more money, more time, helping others, you know, whatever that definition of success is for you.
And I just want to mention one thing that we've just said about when you said this mile. Let's go back to for a second, because that's also in the belief system. The 3-minute mile was Roger Bannister, and nobody thought it was possible, and he did it. Well, today, because somebody did something that was considered unbelievable, today there are thousands of people every year that are doing the 3-minute mile. So it takes somebody to open our limited minds so that we eventually can dream and put into effect what it is we want. There are no limitations for it. 4-minute mile, sorry. You're right. But it was Roger Bannister anyway. So yeah.
One parting shot, Lawrence, I want to kind of leave everybody with, because we're getting to the end here.
Right.
Have a little chat with yourself this weekend. Ask yourself, what does my future self think about the decisions that I'm making right now? Because our future is a compounding asset, right? The decisions we're making are part of that compound effect. As you're writing your story and making the investments, time investments, money investments, understand that every decision will have a consequence. And what are the consequences of those decisions? Are they positive or are they negative? Right? And we just want to compound those positive consequences. Right? So ask yourself, what does my future self think about the decisions that I'm making today? Because the decisions that you make today are going to affect your success three months from now, as John Schwartz always says.
And actually, that's extremely valid, because what was very important 5 years ago for us today may not be the same priority that we had 5 years ago. So what is the success that you want? Define your success. You know, it's not just money. It may be your spiritual growth. It may be the relationships in your family, whatever it is, but define yourself so that in 5 years from now, you will achieve that. So look back, as Dan says, how do you see yourself in 5 years' time? So we're on time there. Has anybody got anything they want to add, or any other thing? Dan, I don't know, you got anything else?
Yeah, I just got one more thing. I mean, I have very short-term memory about negative things that happen in my life. Like, I can't even remember something negative that happened to me, because if something negative happens to me, I just let it roll off my back. It's in the past, I forget about it, right? And have long-term memory about positive things that are happening in your life, because that's what's going to propel you forward. The negative's going to hold you back. The positive's going to drive you forward.
100%. Good job. Thank you. Anybody else got anything? Not. Thanks everybody for being on the call.
Thanks everybody. Have a great weekend.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, Hal Elrod with the Miracle Morning says, never let any negative thing last in your mind more than 5 minutes. And if you do it really well, you can get it down to where it's only 5 seconds. I mean, and he had some of the biggest challenges ever in life. And he limited his thought on that to 5 minutes, and then he moved forward. And that's what allowed him to move forward. So what you said, Dan, is so appropriate.
Thank you.
I want to
give again.
I have a quote I want to share.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
1 second, I have to find it.
You don't have it memorized?
Well, I think it's like don't beg, don't chase, don't be needy, relax. It'll come to you, by Adam Cam. Just remember that what we have is so awesome for people, right? People want to, join our team. People want to feel better. I think it's helping them change their mindset and how they look at it. You shouldn't have to beg anyone to be part of the business. They should just be, knocking and trying to rip down your door to, feel better and join. So remember that. And also the other thing is, remember your time is valuable. You don't walk around, handing people $20. Don't hand them 20 minutes of your time, and if someone's going to give you, 50%, don't give them 2000%. You just protect your time and know your value and remember that this is something that's, really awesome and you shouldn't have to beg anybody.
We're not in the business of begging. We're not in the business of convincing. It has to be the right time for somebody if they want to get healthier, if they want to help other people get healthier, if they want to improve their life from a financial perspective or lifestyle. That's up to them. That's on their time. We're not here to convince anybody. Like you said, Jane, our time's valuable. It's extremely valuable because we have a finite amount of it, right? And so we need to make people aware that our time is just as valuable as theirs.
The other thing I want to add is like dollar amount. People are like, oh, I can't spend, that much on supplements, and it's if you break it down to them, I like to use Starbucks. That is, people can see that, they're getting a Starbucks at once every week, do the math. If you can do that and help them like budget a little bit and people don't value what they're worth, so if you break it down to them like that, they see it a little bit better.
Yeah, the KISS method, right? Keep it simple. Explain
Yep.
it in a way that they can understand. Makes it more palatable.
Thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
It's the old highwayman routine, your money or your life. You either invest in your health or you agree to sacrifice it. That simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Awesome.
job. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Yep,
Thanks,
thanks, everybody.
everyone.
Have a great one.
Bye.
Thank
too.
you. Have a great weekend.
now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.